What's up, everybody? Look, I know. NBA Finals is on right now. We're smack dab kind of in the middle of it. I know the Thunder fans out there are wanting their team to win, but y'all know we got to get it in. Champ U BBQ is this weekend. Catch this video after the game. Have it on your cell phone, just playing around, just playing while you're watching the game. Whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. But you already know I'm here with Mr. Sooners 360 himself, our recruiting guru here on this channel, or Sooners Intel. So obviously, Sooners 360, go down below and you'll see all the links and everything. Mr. Mason has a wonderful, wonderful Patreon that has a lot of all the news that you're seeing and all the things that you're hearing. And I think it's still only $2 for a subscription, right?
That's right.
So, hey, you get all that information, no fluff. It's all there. So definitely want to give a shout out to Mr. Mason, Mr. Chris Mason for that. Also, people, please keep in mind that when season starts, Mr. Mason and I, along with Jason from time to time for sure, we will be doing some separate pods as well as just dedicated to recruiting. So we'll give you some, hopefully we'll be able to give you some weekly updates. There'll be short form videos, little brief videos, probably lives, and we'll talk about maybe doing a little Q&A as well. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But we're here for a good time, not a long time. So with that being said, Chris Mason, it's Champ U BBQ. I think people want to know exactly who all is going to be here this weekend. What are names that we need to look out for? Is there any commitments on the horizon? I know a lot of people are probably excited about Dallas Dickerson if you went and watched the film. But just like we used to do way back last year, let's do it this year. And the floor is yours.
Sure. So it's the Barbecue U weekend. OU has a number of verbal commitments coming in town. They have a number of guys who I think are leaning to OU. They have a couple players where OU really needs to sort of land this visit to I think win that recruiting battle. We have a number of dates from other players who visited on June 6th in terms of commitment dates, and I'm just going to review that after I go through the visitors for this weekend. So just real quick. So the verbal commitments visiting are Beau Jandreau, the cheetah from Arizona. His brother, Beau, the middle linebacker who's not committed, is visiting. And I think Beau is most definitely on commitment watch this weekend. Brian Harris, the defensive tackle from Florida, is back this weekend using his official visit. He's here to basically hang around Jake Kreul, DeAnthony Lafayette, and Daniel Norman. The three Florida defensive ends are visiting. He's basically hanging around them all weekend, pitching OU. If you haven't been following Brian Harris on Twitter, X, he's very, very vocal in terms of recruiting for OU. So he's making quite a presence out there in terms of his OU presence. Ryder Mix, the tight end who's been committed to OU the longest time at this point, since Will Conroy left the class. Ryder Mix committed last summer. So he's a tight end, 6'4", 225, 230. OU legacy. His dad played baseball. He would create an excellent tight end combo with Tyler Ruxer if OU can land Ruxer. Then we have, so those are the three guys that I know that are showing up that are committed. So the players that are not committed that are arriving this weekend are DeAnthony Lafayette from Florida. He's a 3-star, but he had like 17 sacks last year, over 20 tackles for loss. When you watch his film, there are echoes of Nick Benito and R. Mason Thomas, both from Florida, in his game. He's 6'1.5", maybe 6'2". He has a massive wingspan for that height, and he is. He's a blur off the corner. He's just basically, he gets to the quarterback and sacks the quarterback. He's in the backfield all the time. So be interested to see where OU goes there. Then I mentioned Daniel Norman, another defensive end from Florida. Looks like Miami and UCLA are the main threats there. OU's made a big push since his commitment. When I saw him, he took an unofficial visit to OU, and when he was standing next to Miguel Chavis, he was Miguel Chavis's height. So he's 6'4", 6'5", every bit of it. Long wingspan. I really like his film. He's rated as a top 150 kid by one of the services. The other services have him as like a 3-star, which is kind of a trend going on with OU's targets lately. Then maybe one of the highest rated kids visiting is Jordan Clay, wide receiver from San Antonio. He's a top 100 kid, top 50 kid. Baylor and Colorado are the official visits he took before this visit this weekend. Baylor's probably the biggest competition. Really likes Emmett Jones. OU's been hanging around this. I would love to see OU close out him. He would be a big addition at wide receiver. I mentioned Beau Jandreau. I think he's a Mike linebacker. I would say he's generously 6'1", 210. The odd thing here, Chris, is that Oregon and Texas are hot on him. They really want him. So we'll see. OU would seem to have a huge advantage because they've got his brother in the fold already. So that's an interesting recruiting that because he's kind of jacked up at 6'1", 210 based upon photos. So I'm interested to see where that shakes out. Then OU has Zach Turner from Duncanville visiting. He's either a big wide receiver or a flex tight end. Miami's made a big push. OU and Duncanville. KJ Ford's sort of fallen off the track, at least in terms of visiting this summer. So I don't know where they are with Turner and with Turner.
If I could just add a comment, it looks like KJ Ford is headed for an official visit to Ohio State, right? Looks like that was put in.
Yeah, or USC. Maybe it's Ohio State. He and OU seem to be separating, and maybe OU tries to get back with him this fall, depending upon where they are at defensive end.
Cool.
That's a weird recruiting that kind of went in a different direction very quickly after Nagy came on board. So I don't know if that's coincidental or causal there. So Zach Turner is like 6'3", 210. He had really good junior film. And I guess it really comes down to how many and what types of receivers does OU want. We'll get back to the Dallas Dickerson story in a minute. So, you've got Zach Turner, you've got Jordan Clay, you had Davion Gross, and you had Jaden Petit on the 6. Both of those guys still looking at OU. Evaluating OU. They haven't made decision dates yet. Dickerson has. So I'll be interested to see how. And at tight end, if you get Tyler Ruxer to go with Ryder Mix, you've got 2 tight ends. So it's interesting to see.
By the grace of God.
Yeah, somehow getting 2 guys who are 4-star tight ends by 2 services and are real tight ends. Dual-purpose tight end guys who would really upgrade the room and just they're players who, if they came enrolled early and put on some weight, could really play for you as freshmen based upon their skill set at wide receiver. A name I have not mentioned a lot that hasn't got a lot of play is Jacob Eberhardt. He's a safety from Missouri. He's 6'3", 205 pounds. Top 250 kid on Rivals 4-star. Missouri is the most likely opposition. Eberhardt may have been, playing around maybe with Nebraska. Bama was trying to talk to him too. Not sure if that midweek visit happened or not. Things are really pretty fluid right now in terms of some midweek visits from kids all around the country. Like, did this kid visit? No. Like, we thought Ryan Estrada was gonna take a visit even after DeZephon Walker committed, and then he didn't visit and canceled his other visits and committed to Minnesota when Bama and Michigan were waiting for word if he was going to visit them. So it's weird around the country. Decisions are flying around a little bit. USC just threw a massive bag at Luke Waffle, and he chose them instead of Ohio State and Penn State, which I thought was weird. We'll see there. So Eberhardt would be a really good addition at safety. OU's got the youngest Presley kid in, Braden Presley. He's 6'2", 190 pounds, so he's the bigger Presley kid, even though he's the youngest. This really comes down to OU or OSU, I think. So,
what position?
He's a DB. I don't think he's a cornerback. I think he's probably more of a safety. He's very athletic. He's a bigger kid. I don't know. I'm just having a hard time believing that his two brothers go to OSU and he finds the common sense to go to OU. So, once Agent Orange infects a family, it's rare to inoculate that family.
I mean, the thing is, I think the only common denominator out of that, or the only thing that makes sense out of it all, is the fact that, look, we love BV and we want BV to be here. I believe, and I think everybody on this panel believes, that he can be the coach that brings us number 8, 9, 10, however many he can bring to us. But at the same time, I think that we all agree that seats are either hot or very uncomfortable for both BV and Gundy right now, given the situation we're having in Stillwater. So bringing in a brand new OC, a brand new DC, that, Ty Grantham, right? So a lot of people are not too pleased down there in Stillwater. We'll say that for another show, but I just wanted to say that's something I think that, with his recruitment, it would be interesting simply because of the unknown, where you have proven there with him, but at the same time with Gundy does like to keep his assistants for a while, but we all have to see how the season goes. So, I mean, would you be surprised something with the Presley kid? Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh yeah, we have to have this kid, which we would love to have the kid. Please believe that. But at the same time, are you thinking this is something that could go into maybe deep fall, or do you think this could be wrapped up pretty quickly?
That's a good question. I don't have any sense that he's on commit watch, that he's like ready to set a date. So, I think this could go into the fall for him. If he's not just dead set on OSU, or if he takes his official visit to OU and just decides, this isn't an OSU podcast, so I'll just say the truth here, right? So let's just say he wants to go to the bigger, better program in the better conference, and he decides that's what he wants to do. His brothers, one of his brothers, I think, transferred out of OSU. You can write on the postage stamps how much I care about OSU football and what I really know about it. He
went to Tulsa, and the other one, I think he's out of eligibility. I think he's in the league. So
yeah, so it's an interesting thing. Usually you would just say he's going to OSU. This is what kind of happens in these circumstances, but it's a little bit out there. He would be a safety for OU. Brandon, Coach Hall's safety room is very talented. He's, I think we all think that Billy Bowman's going to have a good year with the Falcons. I think Robert Spears-Jennings is going to get drafted. I think we all think that if Peyton Bowen can get healthy and get redirected back to what he was doing his freshman year, he has NFL potential. We like the young guys who are just looking absurd. So, maybe that, and Brandon Hall is an Oklahoma guy. He has connections. So maybe he can win that argument over what is obviously a big family kind of pull. Then the number one guy visiting this weekend is Jake Kreul, defensive end, 6'3", 230 from IMG. UF is making a push, a late push. They're making a big push nationally, just with a lot of recruits. They've got some heat right now and some momentum. Kreul's been to Norman like 6 times in the last 12 months. And he just seems to be like completely connected to Miguel Chavis. I think OU would push their chips all in on Jake Kreul in terms of whatever NIL salary cap numbers we're talking about. Defensive ends are a premium. He's an extremely talented defensive end. So I think OU would push in. I don't think he's close to making a public decision, but we'll see after the OU visit. Just so everyone's clear, this is the last weekend kids can take official visits until September. So we basically have 2 2-month gap between the 20th and the kids can start taking visits the first weekend 1 of college football, not weekend 0, weekend 1. They can start taking visits. So OU will probably bring in a bunch of kids and try and bring in a bunch of kids for the primetime Michigan game. Anybody who's on this list that I've talked about that's still out there. I think they would try and push for them to come in for that game since it's a night kickoff. Play your Friday night high school football game, fly in the morning in, get a morning flight to Norman, and you can watch OU play the Wolverines. So I think that's a factor. One guy that I think is on commit watch is Devon Robinson from Pasadena, Texas, which is, if we're going to call the greater Houston area, expand that into every direction. That's where he's from. He is an offensive guard. He is 6'3", 315. His film is beyond his 3-star status. He is a mauling, physical, fighter in the middle. I really like his film. He basically canceled a prior visit and immediately set up the OU visit after the offer. This is trending to, he got the OU offer and he's like, oh, K-State, see ya. And then he jumped here and he's like, I'm going to Norman that weekend. So the fact he did that immediately, I think, is a pretty high sign. I think he'd been after an OU offer for a while. His junior film was really good in comparison to what he had put up before.
People, you got to pay close attention to any O-line talk about Mr. Mason. We had so many conversations this past year on and off screen, especially off screen, about what we were going to do about the O-line. This guy was working every night after hours trying to figure out, okay, what's the number? What's the magic number? And you know what? This dude, he hit on a bunch. So definitely love both sides of the trenches. O-line is definitely a specialty. But yeah, no, keep going, Mr. Mason.
And then the last visitor confirmed is Tajh Overton, defensive tackle. He's 6'3", 275 pounds from Owasso. He's a top 250, 4-star. Ole Miss and OSU seem to be the main competition. Overton hurt his shoulder last season, which seems to have dulled some teams' interest. I think Tennessee was kind of hot for him, and then they got some other kids. So Overton has been to Norman, I don't know, countless times over the last 12 months. He and Todd Bates are very tight. I would imagine I'd be surprised if Tajh isn't on commit watch after this visit. I mean, he needs to. If I was Tajh's people, I would be getting the OU visit over with, turn in my chip, and get an announcement quickly before somebody else grabs his spot on the D-line or makes it more interesting. So 2 kids I didn't mention because their status is just completely uncertain. So Craig Dandridge, the wide receiver from Georgia, he's just set up an announcement date on 6/26. Looks like he's going to Georgia. If I was OU, I might think about canceling that visit, or Dandridge might cancel it. It's not always a great sign that a guy sets up a commit date before he visits you. Kind of says that's what Tavion Branch did, and we saw what Rutgers did. So it kind of goes both ways, but I'm kind of getting the feeling that with the other receivers OU wants to grab, especially if, we'll talk about the other guys about to make decisions here in a minute. But I think Dandridge may not show up or OU may cancel that visit. It's a big weekend for OU. You don't really want somebody who's already decided and bringing negative vibes, to the picture. Mm-hmm. And then the big defensive tackle from Sweden, Atlantasooner, plays prep school in Virginia. He had to return to Sweden earlier in the month, and he basically canceled a bunch of visits. So I think he's reshuffling things around. I'm not sure he's going to show up in Norman, but I don't think his recruiting is anywhere near being over. I think it's going to push out to the fall, and I think OU will try and schedule him to come in for like the Michigan game, possibly the Auburn game, and try and get their official visit, use their official visit when he's closer to making a decision. Like he had to go back for a couple of weeks. I think he had some family issue occur, so he had to go back to Sweden. So his whole recruiting process is kind of disrupted. So everyone will notice that I did not mention 2 kids. All right, let's just talk about it and get it out of the way with. Jaden O'Neal, I don't know what he's doing. No one knows what he's doing. If I was OU, I would cancel his visit. If I was Jaden O'Neal, I would cancel my visit because if you're going to FSU, if that's what's going to end up happening with him, and I don't know, that's what all the forecast smoke is. Then why go to Norman? There's no point. And if you're OU and you think Jaden is going to decommit, then why bring that energy to the barbecue, right? So, from my opinion, I don't think the O'Neills should go, because if they are wavering on what they're doing, save the official visit to the fall, right? Don't use the OU official visit now. Wait to the fall. You've been to OU any number of times. You don't know to go back. Yeah. So Riley, yeah, that's I'm seeing the same smoke signals you guys are, right? The flip predictions and all that. I'm seeing the same things you guys are. So if I was O'Neill, I wouldn't visit OU, because I'd save the OU official visit for the fall in case you need to use it for some reason. So can only officially visit once. Mm-hmm. Why not save the official visit to the fall? So Daniel Odom, the wide receiver from California, is verbaled. I don't know if he comes in, or if, again, OU decides to push off his official visit until the quarterback issue is resolved, and say, hey, let's bring you in for the Michigan game. Let's get our quarterback issue resolved so you can make a proper decision, and let's not waste the official visit before that situation is resolved. So those are the situations I think OU fans should be aware of. It's Thursday night, 9:37 Eastern time, and guys, I'm giving you the best information I have at this moment. So that's where we are.
So give me Dallas Dickerson. Got to pivot back to that.
Yeah, let's talk about. So that's all the guys that are on campus. So just to recap, if you want the nuts and bolts of this, I think you should be keeping an eye on Jordan Clay, Beau Jandreau, Jacob Everhart, Devon Robinson, and Tajh Overton, in terms of guys who could flip this weekend, could choose OU, and you could have decisions coming soon after. So those are the guys I think are the major threats or targets to commit. Speaking of commitments, so we now have 5 commitments next week. It's typical. I'm going out of town, going to spend some time with the wife and some friends at a mountain house. Booked this 6 months ago, and now we have 5 commits occurring while I'm out of town. So the first one, which I actually should be in town for, is Danny Odom, the cornerback from Florida. Chris, if you're asking me, I think he's choosing Oklahoma. Okay.
Can I give a player comp to people? So I think that when you look at Odom, to me personally, I think he's more safety than DB, but I will say he's very instinctual. And guess what, people? He doesn't bite on double moves. He's a really good he has really good cover skills. But when you see him set the edge, when you see him just the style of play, it's very reminiscent somewhere. I guess he's somewhere in my mind between Larry and Turner Yell and Robert Spears. Okay. I think that those are probably, he's somewhere in between them. So I think you definitely should be excited about getting that kid, because he has such a versatile game that he can add to either room in that DB group.
Exactly. So big physical corner who you turn into a cover safety. That works for me, right?
Yeah.
6'2", 180 pounds, 85, turn him into 6'2", 200 pounds assassin at safety, who can also deep cover, be that deep cover safety you need in this scheme. Mm-hmm. Works for me. Then 624, Dallas Dickerson is announcing. Parker Thune just put in a prediction to OU. So we'll see if Parker's right this time. I think he's been leaning to OU, and this kid is speed. He's got some size and he's got some speed. I also got 2 team nuggets for you before I close out. Before we close out, remind me about that. Then on the 626, we've got the big offensive guard, Desmond Green from South Carolina. That's trending to be UF. We'll see what happens. And then Craig Dandridge has already set that date. If he doesn't visit OU, obviously he's going to UGA. But 628, Deacon Schmidt is announcing, and I think he's choosing OU. So I think OU, regardless of what goes on this weekend, could pick up 3 kids who are 4 stars by at least one service. Danny Odom is top 100 by Rivals, would be the highest rated cornerback Jay Valai has gotten for OU since Jacoby Johnson. And maybe Tristan Haynes, his rankings were a little over the place, but, Danny Odom would be a big addition. Love Dickerson for the offense and the scheme. The guy's got speed. And then Deacon Schmidt is a perfect right tackle for Bill Biedenbaugh. 6'5", 320, 330. Needs to go through the Schmitty car wash a little bit, get bigger, stronger. They all, just like any high school kid does for the most part. But he would be a big addition. He's a right tackle. And if for some reason you needed to play him inside down the road, because, OU's got a good 2027 tackle group for OU is looking very, very good. So if for some reason you needed to shift him inside to like right guard, he can totally play that as well. So Noah Best has a lot of flexibility to him. So does Deacon Schmidt. Devon Robinson, if he commits to OU, is just strictly a guard, but that's fine. OU, could use some interior guys as well. So that's the quick, fast, talking quickly rundown I have for you on recruiting. So if there's any super specific questions, guys, we don't have any more information on Bentley or Jaden. So we just don't. It's just, there's nothing more for us to say. And guys, we have, and nobody else has any information either. So that's where we stand on this stuff. So just told you what I thought, gave you my opinion. Obviously, we're in a holding pattern just like everybody else, waiting for Jaden to make a decision of some kind or waiting for Bo Bentley to make a decision. So that's the recruiting roundup. Is there any questions from anybody about recruiting?
Put it out there if you got some questions in the chat, y'all. I'm going to pull up something real quick for that next topic, just the next little mini topic real quick. Put that on the screen.
Yep. So if I was Texas, I'd be really worried about Diabell having won the MVP because the last couple of Elite 11 MVPs have not been good. So it's a little bit of a curse, to be honest. On the Sooner Scoop podcast, they were going back like 10 years and rattling off names like Ricky Towns, Shea Patterson, just guys that did just jack.
You don't really have to even go that far. I know me and my uncle were talking about it today. And he brought up, he was like, go back and look at some of the statistics and stuff. It's maybe only 2 or so each year that, that you could pick from each Elite 11 year that, are NFL draft picks, I know Notre Dame has kind of had the run of the luck as well. So I'm not going to sit here and down the kid. I mean, it's still a big time thing to go out there and show out. So, the Diabell kid, hats off to him. He won it. Hey, hopefully he goes to Texas and he rocks out. That's great. But at the same time, it's just one of those things where, hell, with Jackson from last year, look at what Notre Dame, like I said, Notre Dame has had the run of the luck with a couple of those quarterbacks. So it's just one of those things where you just really don't know because it's routes on air sometimes. And it's one of those things where Jackson looked like $1 million. He won that. And, we kind of had to take that lump on their head as OU fans because, that was part of the argument as far as making the case for him being a first-year starter and being successful. That was a piece of the argument. So it's just one of those things where this is a great honor to have, and it's great that he won it and all the rest of that stuff. But, you look at the list, and just like any of these kids right here could be the next big thing in college football, and there's a few of them that probably will bounce around to the point where you just don't know,
Yeah, Bentley did not have a great Elite 11 camp in the Austin area. He basically got that invite from his play last year, his play last year during that playoff run where they won the state championship of 4A. So he didn't have a great workout. He was one of the last guys picked for Elite 11 from that list. So for him to jump up, and he really, he had maybe the best throwing day in one of their accuracy drills, and then he had a good 7-on-7 day. The first day he struggled a little. He was okay, But for him to basically, I think, have gone from, Chris, he was probably like the 15th QB invited to this event.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to jump up from that to be the fourth guy coming out of it, and ahead of, let's be honest, Faison Brandon is the number one country in the nation, number one player in the nation, according to one service. Keishan Henderson's a 5-star. The other guys are a little all over the place. Alabama basically stole Jet Tamola from Iowa State.
Yeah, which was
that's very interesting in terms of that perspective. But
yeah.
I watched some of the stuff, Beau, the stuff we got to see about Elite 11. I still think they're not really doing a great job doing. They should basically have that programming all on live on YouTube that folks could watch. But whatever. So I think overall he did really well. He again, like I said, he was like the 15th, 16th quarterback chosen for this event, and he ended up being, according to everybody, a top 5 guy coming out of it. So I think he had a good event. He had a really good event. So if he does end up being the Sooner quarterback, I think this is a positive coming out of that, is that he looked a lot better. Mm-hmm. So he played significantly better previous to what occurred before. Well, the only reason Bell is the first QB to ever win Elite 11 is, Arch didn't compete. So, Arch would have obviously won it going away, because Arch, as we know, is the, walks on water, living, breathing, best quarterback in the history of college football. So we know Arch would have won Elite 11 if he'd attended. So, but your uncle was asking about Lafayette.
He said he likes the Lafayette kid. That
So basically, when you watch his film, it's really good film. Like he is abusing quarterbacks. He's abusing offensive tackles, quick inside moves, some power moves, flying around the corner. So he's getting sacks in a variety of ways. He has a massive wingspan for his height. It's like he may be like 6'1", 6'2", but I bet he's got like a 6'5" wingspan or something ridiculous like that. 3-4 inches taller than his height based upon his arm length. And he's really physical and he's very productive. Mm-hmm. And you would say, well, he doesn't fit the NFL model, but then you would say, again, he looks the same size as R. Mason Thomas and Nick Bonito. And Nick Bonito, was like, what was he, second or third in sacks in the NFL last year?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if he was number 1, but he was certainly in the top 5.
He's definitely, yeah.
And he's. I mean, I don't know if he got paid this offseason, but he's about to get paid. Mm-hmm. So if you view that and you view the scheme, then I think he's a scheme fit, and he's a serious pass rusher from that perspective. And can you ever have enough pass rushers? No. So
I have a question for you. Question for you on this. Who are you out of this, all the kids that are on campus right now that you've named, that you talked about, who are you the most excited about as far as just, possibly becoming a Sooner?
It begins and ends with Jake Kreul. He's 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds. He has been abusing 5-star tackles at camps and combines for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. He's an instinctive pass rusher. He has that first step. He has counter moves to moves. He would be. I think he will end up being a 5-star, depending upon his final season at IMG. And he does IMG preps guys. Does an incredible job prepping guys for college football. I think we can say that, right? We've got enough evidence to kind of back that up. So he's the number 1 guy I'm excited about. Number 2, if you ask me, it would probably be Jordan Clay, just because he's 6'3", 190 pounds. He has a little bit of Malcolm Kelly kind of to his game a little bit, to pull up a name from the past. He's athletic. He's a big outside threat. You combine him with what I hope is a Dallas Dickerson commitment, and then a commitment from Davion Gross. And I think you take the 4th wide receiver, depending upon who you want and who's out there. So from that perspective, I think those guys are those would be my top 2 that I would hope OU walks out of this weekend with. Obviously, Beau Jandreau is a linebacker. We need linebackers. I'm not quite sure where I view him, but the coaching staff loves him, and Oregon and Texas's coaching staff loves him apparently as well. So that's a lot of linebacker talent. That's a lot of linebacker opinions better than mine. So OU needs linebackers. They got to add linebackers in this class. They need at least 3. So if you get him, and then you can close on Braxton Lindsey when he's done, I think that would give you a 3 linebacker group, which you can build upon to add some depth. Although 2027 is looking like a fantastic linebacker year for the Sooners, so that also maybe that plays a little factor into their numbers as well. It's hard to say. The wild cards this weekend really are the 2 defensive ends, D'Anthony Lafayette and Daniel Norman. I think they're both takes. They're different players. Daniel Norman probably could be 6'5", 255, 260 when he's done. He's got a huge frame, very lean. So he would be an interesting add. And then, D'Anthony Lafayette, if he enrolls early, puts 10 pounds on his frame and is 6'1.5", 6'2", 245. He's a pass rusher. You can instantly put him in the game and tell him to go get quarterback. So he could add depth to you at defensive end. OU's going to lose R. Mason Thomas, and you could bring in someone very similar to him. Whereas Jake Kreul probably could be 6'3", 6'4", 255, and just be just a beast at defensive end every down for you. So, I think some defenders are where I would see the most upside, but I do like Jordan Clay, and I think Zach Turner. I'm not sure where I am with him. I think you've got 2 tight ends possibly. So a flex tight end position, you don't really need him, especially if you use a ship on Josiah Jefferson, who I think if they can work out getting him eligible for this fall, I think that commitment comes as well. So he's kind of a flex tight end at 6'5", 230. So I'm not sure you need Turner as a flex tight end. And as a big wide receiver, I'm not sure Turner is as good as Jaden Petit. I don't think he's as good as Jordan Clay. But if you ask me between Jaden Petit and Zach Turner, I'm not really sure which way I'd go. Davion Gross is in a different category. I think he's kind of the elite, almost 5-star guy at wide receiver. At OU, I think has a lead there and just needs to kind of close out that commitment maybe in the July timeframe.
Just kind of moving on just a little bit because we're going to wrap this video up here soon. What are your 2 team nuggets that you have?
So the first one is that everyone saw Elijah Thomas dunking, right?
Yeah.
And he looked unbelievable dunking the basketball, right? And we've heard nothing but rave reviews about the kid ever since he got on campus. So it was hard to know his size height when he came on campus, but roster-wise, what did OU report him at? Let me pull it up real quick. What was his as a freshman? What do they say? Did they give him a number yet? Have they done that yet? Let me see if the roster has the freshman in it.
I would imagine they gave him a number. I mean, hell yeah, one in spring, right? I think it's like 14 in spring.
Yeah, so let me just look here and see what they listed him at. Elijah Thomas. All right, they said he was 6 feet 195.
Mm-hmm.
My source says that he's at least 210 pounds now. And just still as explosive and elusive as ever.
Yeah, if he's able to, add weight and be explosive, that's going to be scary. People just to add to that as well, there's a lot of notes out there. Well, there's a bunch of notes out there, just brief synopsis, brief summaries and stuff like that. But, you're hearing good things about Satania. Keontez Lewis is finally, his name is there. I think he's healthy now. Burks, you're hearing the raves again. Jermichael Carter. The Josiah kid as well, the kid we got from Arizona State. So I think you're going to get help a lot. And like my aunt and I were talking about, obviously you want the Gibsons to be back and you want to have everybody ready to go. But when you go and look at the Washington State film and you take a second just to say, oh yeah, I know that's, I'm not Bo Bentley. I know that's John Mateer. And I know what he can do. But if you look at the offense and the continuity of it, and you just look at the receiver core that he had last year, they were solid. They were really solid. Kyle Williams is a guy, and that's why he's going to make the roster this year with the Patriots, obviously. And I think he's going to be able to hopefully do some big things. But the Meredith guy and then the other guys, and they did get the tight end involved from time to time. It's one of those things where you just want to give Arbuckle and Mateer solid options to throw it to guys who can actually just catch the ball. They can figure it out as far as how explosive, how aggressive they need to be. But, definitely hearing those things, that is definitely encouraging. What's your second nugget, man?
So OU right now on the roster I'm looking at lists Danny Okoye at 6'3", 250. My source said he's 265.
Oh.
And has not lost anything.
He's a guy, like I told you guys, when I saw him at the Texas game, as a former red shirt myself, I know what it's like. You're sitting in the stands watching, thinking to yourself, man, I go against these guys in practice every day. I know how good I am. I know I can be out there. And when you have that look on your face, I saw it in his face. It's like, he's going to be out there playing next year, and he's going to be causing hell. So that's awesome to hear.
So,
go ahead.
That's the sort of two team nuggets I had.
Chris Mason, I want to end it today if you don't mind. I'm gonna leave everybody with a little food for thought. Let's
just do Oklahoma Ganjagro's question. He just
go ahead.
So here he says, if O'Neal goes to FSU, how many recruits do we lose? And the only guy I think you're in danger of losing is Daniel Odom, the wide receiver from Florida. I keep saying he's from Florida. He's getting Daniel Odom and Danny Odem confused. I think he's the only guy. I think he either follows O'Neal to FSU. I don't know why anybody would go to the Gus Malzahn offense as a wide receiver, but that's an editorial comment for another day. Or he's going to go to Washington, where I would go play for Jedd Fisch, and what Jedd Fisch is putting together at UW. He's putting together a good class. They're on the upswing. Second year for him. For Jedd Fisch. So they're on the upswing there. They're doing a very good job in recruiting. So I think if O'Neal leaves, I think there's a chance that Daniel Odom from California, if I was him, I would. You don't want to be in Norman with either John Mateer or Bo Bentley and the passing game that Arbuckle's established, and you don't like the thought of that. Then I'd jet to Seattle and go play for Jedd Fisch and that offense rather than go into the place where receivers go to die, which is the Gus Malzahn offense.
I hear you. So, with that being said, the O'Neals, Bentleys, all the rest of that. Look, maybe this is redundant, or maybe this is the first time you're hearing this. Just hear me out on this. Let's just talk real quick. A little Chris's Corner piece. Maybe the whole issue with it is Arbuckle. Not for all the reasons that you all think, or the reasons that some of us thought at first, just, throwing an offer out there, trying to offer the guy that he, thinks, yeah, okay, of course, right? Maybe he thought that he could hide this kid, right? Obviously, there's probably a connection there with John Mateer and the Washington State. Bo Bentley had literally just converted to, being a quarterback and put up a lot of really good numbers, but he wasn't being talked about until he got that OU offer, right? So maybe he thought that he could hide this kid, just stow him away and just put him, on the back burner. And maybe he offered him too early, Me and my uncle were talking, and he said, probably should have just kept talking to the kid, and then if he would have just blew up to the point where LSU or somebody else wanted him, okay, that's great. Have him talk to him every day. Let him know we're probably going to have a spot for you. Maybe we're going to do this. But maybe he thought that, hey, if I offer him, nobody's going to look at him, and we'll be able to get both of these guys simply because I can hide this kid. He's not highly recruited, but I know that he could come in here and probably set the world on fire if I choose to put him as a starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, so long as I'm here. So I think maybe that's what the issue actually is. Maybe that's the root of the problem, is that the thought, which in all actuality, let's just be real, is not the worst thought. However, I think Jason has said it and Chris Mason has said it. Regardless if OU is bad, sorry, or good, or even great, it's still an OU offer. So other teams are going to definitely go in there and try to figure out who the hell is this kid that they're offering as a quarterback. Given our situation with going to the portal, having Mike Hawkins here, and then having Jet New as well. So at the end of the day, I think that regardless if you do miss on these kids, you can still go to the portal and get another really good quarterback or go from there. Obviously, that's not necessarily the way that we want to do it, and you can't necessarily live off of the transfer portal every year. But in hindsight, I think that's a point of interest that has not been discussed, not been talked about that much. Chris Mason, I'll give you a few minutes to talk about it, and then we'll end it there.
I think you bring up. I think you're right on target there for the most part, but I do think why this thing first started. I think you got to understand that when Arbuckle first came in and he wanted to offer Bentley, and maybe he wanted to offer Bentley from the hop. But if you just imagine the chaos in the program in early December, right? And if you'd lost Jaden O'Neal as a commit back then, and you had basically cut him loose, it would have been a disaster, right? I mean, we were already in a dark mood, right? And then if you'd lost that, it would have been worse. So I just makes me wonder if maybe they, Arbuckle was saying, Bentley's my guy, and OU was saying, look, man, our highest rated commit, our quarterback, if we cut him loose, the optics on that are not great.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that maybe played a little bit of a role. Like, well, let's just keep both guys for a little bit until we can get out of the negativity of the end of the season. And they drop the Navy game, and maybe they're like, well, let's just keep it a couple more weeks going. And then they just sort of found themselves where they are. So just to clarify 2 points I'm seeing in the chat. Right now, Beau Bentley is ranked higher than Jaden O'Neal. Jaden O'Neal's rankings in 2 of the services have taken a dive since last summer. Why? I don't know. I can only guess that they don't like the California forfeit season. I think is kind of being used as a negative against Jaden, and it's created like a narrative that he wasn't really playing well against bad competition. So if this high school class probably is around, we'll see if the optics are not likely to improve anytime soon. We'll see. We got football games coming this fall. Winning changes everything. So changes recruiting, changes everything. So I think this high school class, I think by the time August 1st hits, OU is at somewhere in the range of about 20 to 22 commits. And I think OU saves 3 or 4 spots for this fall to pounce on the field momentum if it starts to get created. If OU is 5-0 going into Texas and looks good, the offense is playing better and the defense is playing as per usual. I think there's a chance that OU goes back to some kids that are committed elsewhere that they didn't use official visits on, brings them in for official visits, and then OU's other recruiting things which are very well managed and well executed. And then if you've got some on the field momentum, then you try and pad the class at the end with 3 or 4 flips of some higher rated kids. Spend your gunpowder in the fall with some higher rated kids if you've got some momentum going. And if you don't have any momentum going, what does it matter? So, there's nothing lost. So I think that's where we are. We'll see if that's where I'd see 20 to 22 kids right now, could flex up to 25 if they add some kids in the fall. Let's just say, for instance, you were able to get Atlantasooner, Jake Kreul, and let's just pull a name out of nowhere that I don't know that OU could flip. I don't know. They were able to flip some kid, Donovan Webb, who has dropped OU, but was really interested in as soon as it one stretch. Let's say you come back to him. and you're playing well and you add a top 100, top 200 type safety and you add him to the class. Or there's a linebacker you really like that is in a flippable state of mind and you bring him in for an official visit or something like that. So I think that's where OU will be. OU's at, 11 commits? Let's say there's a 1-for-1 thing with O'Neal and Bentley. They get one of those guys, keep one of those guys. And I'm talking 3 more commits this week. Next week, probably Odom, Dickerson, and Schmidt. That takes you to 14. And let's say you pick up like players like Tajh Overton, Devon Robinson, Davion Gross, maybe Jordan Clay, and Beau Jandreau. That takes you to about, 18, 19. And then you pick up a couple more kids. You pick up Tyler Ruxer at tight end. And you pick up maybe the Braden Presley or Jacob Everhart at safety. And you're at 20, 21 kids. And guys of that group, about 14 of them have a 4-star ranking by one service, at least one service. So please stop with the 3-star U nonsense. But, that's where I think the class ends up.
All right. Well, people, look, you can catch Mr. Mason as soon as 360. He has the Patreon, $2 subscription. It's definitely worth it. So go over there and check that out. Like, subscribe on all channels, right? You got the Horns Down podcast with your boy. You got Sooners 360, as I said, with Mr. Mason. And then obviously you have Hall of Fame College Football Podcast with Jason and the coach. So definitely check us out. And until next time, people, we will see you.